Okay, this myth I love because I've fallen into it before. In today's video, we're going to talk about the myths about learning Houdini that's most probably tripping you up in terms of your learning. Hi, I'm Nelson Lim. If you don't know me, I'm a digital artist and technologist. In this channel, I help CG VFX artists level up their skills and mindsets so that they can create more, earn more, and live more. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. Houdini is hard to learn. Well, that's not necessarily a myth entirely. But one of the things you need to understand is that Houdini is a very open-ended system. So the problem that a lot of beginners experience learning Houdini that makes Houdini hard to learn is that they run into many rabbit holes. And there are literally thousands and thousands of rabbit holes that you can chase. And each one of them, to be fair and to be honest, are all interesting rabbit holes to chase. So what do? You basically need a system in place that's going to keep you focused so you avoid chasing those rabbit holes, avoid being distracted by those things that really don't matter to you as a beginner learner at this point in time. So what do I mean by focus on the basics? I really mean focusing on key concepts such as proceduralism, noise, basic particles, like really getting to know the particle system, because really a lot of things build on your concept of particles and simulation, and you will use it throughout. For many of you who do not realize it, even like Houdini's water system, the flip solver, is a particle-based system. So is grains. Everything is many things in CG is based on particles. So getting a good grasp of particle simulation is extremely important. And as a Houdini artist or Houdini effects artist, a good grasp on basic rendering and shading is really, really critical. So these are the things and the basics that I really highly encourage you to focus on. Alternatively, I would say, well, sign up for a good solid course taught by a good mentor with professional industry experience and a good record of being able to teach, and explain concepts and explain not just the what of the steps, but the whys and the hows and how things relate to each other. I mean, that's really critical to learning any piece of new knowledge, but more importantly, it's extremely critical to learning how to be an effective Houdini artist. Okay, let's really bust this myth. Houdini is not a beginner's tool. Now, I have seen so many people say that. I have seen even industry professionals say that I don't recommend you to learn Houdini as your first tool because it's not for beginners. That is absolutely not true. In my opinion, Houdini is the best way to actually learn CG skills, especially if you don't have a background. If you've never used Maya before, if you've never used any of the other software, Blender, whatever, if you've never used any of that before, Houdini is a great way to begin learning CG skills. And the reason is because Houdini is such an open-ended tool. You really can learn anything inside of Houdini. You can learn the basic concepts of modeling, UVing, texturing, all the way down to rigging animation, although I know that's not what it's mostly used for, but as a beginner, there are concepts in there that you can most definitely use to rig really simple things, animate really simple things. But as you go into rendering, simulation, all of that, Houdini is so open-ended, it actually helps you to have a deeper understanding of what's happening. So what I find is that a lot of CG beginners, if they start off with Houdini as one of their first packages, like myself, it was one of my very first packages moving into the industry, your understanding of CG concepts becomes so much deeper because you can explore when you have questions. Why does a certain thing work a certain way? How is it that your particle solvers work a certain way? You can literally dive inside the node and figure out how are they calculating some of the things. So Houdini, in my opinion, is a great way for beginners to begin. If you like some of the content that you see, if it's been helpful for you, please hit the subscribe button or the like button. And also, if you hit the subscribe button, please hit that bell and you get notified whenever new content gets posted out. Next myth, Houdini takes a long time to learn. Well, any digital content creation application is going to take a long time to learn, especially if you're coming in fresh with not much basics in 3D or CG. So that's a given. However, with Houdini, it doesn't take longer than any other software package to learn. In fact, I think with the right structures in place, you can learn Houdini pretty fast. So if you're trying to learn Houdini simply following tutorials and following their steps and just replicating their steps, then what you will find is yes, learning Houdini and effects could actually take a long time. Because the problem that you face is that all you're doing is you're only able to replicate the exact same steps that the tutorial talks about. However, you can't do anything from scratch, or you don't really know how to apply it into your own situation anymore, because what you're really doing is a rote learning. You're not really understanding the whys and the hows. Okay, I see lots of people being stressed out by this myth, which is that I need to know complicated math. As a beginner, the kind of math that's involved is very basic. Obviously arithmetic, you must know how to add and do your basic arithmetic. But also, really, you just need to know really basic vector math. So if you're not familiar with that, Khan Academy has a whole bunch of free content out there for you to learn very basic vector math. What is a vector? How does it point to a specific direction in 3-dimensional space, as well as how does it point to maybe the magnitude, the strength of that vector? How do you add different directional vectors together to give you a different directional vector? That kind of stuff, but fairly basic, basic CG 3D stuff. Also, you just really need to know what the math does and how it does that math. You really don't have to derive it, prove it, or even literally code it up. There's some function out there for you to use. And you'll find that more complicated math like matrices and even dot and cross products, that kind of math can come later when you need it. As and when you need it, as and when you encounter it and you have to know how to use it to solve certain problems, that's when you really want to do your learning. And even that is not really very complicated math. So there you have it. Houdini doesn't require you to learn very, very complicated math in order to use it. Okay, another myth to bust is the myth that I need to know how to code. Nope, you do not need to learn how to code. There is a node to do everything that you need to do in Houdini. And if for some reason you don't find that sufficient, Houdini has a visual scripting language. Just like Unreal Engine has blueprints, Houdini has VOPs. And VOPs is Houdini's version of a visual scripting language, which you can use. And it's very intuitive, very artist-friendly. You're just wiring nodes to form basically what is programming syntax. And that's not even something that you necessarily must use. So there you have it. You don't have to write any code if you don't want to, and most certainly as a beginner, not absolutely critical. Hey there, I just wanted to point out that I have a free 10-page effects demo reel guide that's available. It's a 10-page PDF available for free for you that I created, and in it contains lots of tips and best practices as to how to cut an effects demo reel that's going to get you more interviews and land you possibly your effects dream job. Now in it, I cover lots of ground as to what's a portfolio piece, how do you even create a portfolio piece, what are the things that beginners need to really watch out for in terms of creating an outstanding demo reel. And I also include 2 checklists in there for you when you're working on your portfolio pieces, as well as when you're cutting that demo reel together. So please remember to find it in the description below. I'll leave it there, and click on the link and it will bring you to where you can download the effects demo reel guide. All right. Okay, this myth I love because I've fallen into it before, and it's the myth that I need to master Houdini, and I still hear it every day from my students. I need to master Houdini. So here's the truth. No one can truly master Houdini. So why do I say that? Well, Houdini is changing all the time. Literally all the time. With every dot release, with every major release, there's so many changes that are going on in Houdini, new additions, etc, etc. And you will find that as a production artist, there are certain areas that you lean towards, you veer towards, you tend to specialize in, or even depending on the production, there may be certain skill sets that you develop more in a certain production over the course of a year, and then in the next production, another different skill set is sort of required. So what you will find is the more you learn, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. That's how deep Houdini is. And it's not necessarily Houdini, that's how deep CG is altogether. So one thing I want to encourage lots of beginners is just enjoy the process. There's no need to be impatient, and just realize that you'll never ever master Houdini or any other DCC application altogether. And that's okay, that's a good thing. The more you learn and the more you realize you're not mastering it because you realize the gap in knowledge that you need to fill or you want to fill, that's good. It means you're growing. It means you have area for growth. All right, this last myth is really a myth that is kind of unspoken. Most people buy into it, but they don't really say it out loud. And that's the myth that I just need to know more technical skills. So many people behave as if they've just got all the right technical skills, they are going to succeed. And that's just a big outright lie. You can see so many people chasing after tutorials, chasing after learning, and I think, don't get me wrong, I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be passionate about your learning of the technical skills. But you also have to realize that pursuing these technical skills are not necessarily the only components that determine your success as an artist, as a CG practitioner. So I'll list 2 more skill sets that often get neglected in the process of pursuing technical skills. One is your eye for aesthetics. So as an artist, you can't get away from your eye for detail, your eye for what is pleasant, interesting, beautiful. That kind of eye needs to be trained. Your eye for what is realistic, what's not. That kind of creative aesthetic eye takes time to be trained, and I don't see many people pursuing after that. And so that should be one of your goals. Besides achieving a high amount of technical skills, which I've seen being shown in portfolios and portfolio pieces from very hardworking, aspiring, young beginner artists, but you can see also that they lack the creative aesthetic eye. They have not spent so much time training it. The second skill that is really important is your social emotional skills, because a lot of times in production, you work as a team. So you really have to interact very closely with a team working together, and your team works with other teams as well. So your ability to take responsibility and ownership of your work, as well as how to communicate that with other people, how to work together as a team, that kind of stuff is really, really important as well. And so those are things that as a artist, as a human being, I think you should spend some amount of time as well developing. All right, there you have it, the myths about learning Houdini and effects. So have you bought into any of these myths? If you have, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to chat with you and hear what are some of the lies and myths that you may have bought into that may just be tripping you up in your journey of learning Houdini effects. So I'll see you next week on this channel.